Hi, Chris Mc Loone here. Welcome back to Live at FDIC. This studio is brought to you by Firehouse Subs and the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation. Enjoy more subs, save more lives. Find out more about restaurant ownership at www.firehousesubfranchising.com. Well, welcome back to Live at FDIC. I'm here today with members of a special project that's been done recently to address rural water supply. From TFT, I have Ben Lehman. He is the customer service manager. From Turbo Draft, I have Henry Lovett. And from the Water Thieves,
Yeah, you're right.
Water Thieves, we have, you do so many things, Andy, that, sometimes I forget, exactly which one I'm talking about at the time. But from the Water Thieves, Andy Sacadato, who you also know from our water delivery podcast that we do once a month. So, fellas, this was an interesting project that you guys all put together. But Ben, I'll start with you. What was the impetus for this series? Why did TFT decide that this was a series it wanted to make?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty straightforward. So when you look at the domestic fire service and you see that over 70% of the nation is a volunteer firefighter, that volunteer firefighter has a regular job outside of firefighting. And so training is a massive void that we saw in the fire service, and that's something that we wanted to try and fill. Provide, leverage some career fire departments, their experiences, how they, in this case, can deliver big water and bring that content, that training video to the rural volunteer fire service.
Really, it's in just discussing things with Andy over time, and we've known each other for a while. That really is and we sometimes it's not so much the equipment and how to use it, but it's the tactics involved with just getting it all set up. So critically important. Henry and Andy, I'm going to let you talk here just about what it was like to make the series. I mean, there's a lot that has to go into that. We're sitting here, doing a 15-minute podcast, but there was a lot that just went into getting this ready. Something like that. This is an 8-part series. 4 parts went out before FDIC. You're gonna release the next 4 parts after FDIC. So there's a tremendous amount of work that has to go into site selection and stuff like that. So Andy, I'll start with you. Talk about what it was like for you to make the series, and then Henry, we'll move over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was an absolute pleasure to work on the series. It was a lot of fun, but like you said, it took a lot of time. This whole series was probably 2 years in the making, between coordinating and everything, getting the scripts ready, but finding the sites took a lot of time too. So we shot everything in Tennessee, in Hickman County, Tennessee, and beautiful part of Tennessee. But the reason we selected that area, we really wanted to make sure that where we were filming and everything that we put on the screen looked real. We wanted it to be realistic, and kind of what I had envisioned and we as a team had envisioned was somebody watching the series being able to say, man, that creek, I have that, down on, 231 or that lake. I know a lake just like it. I've seen that rural road before. So Hickman County was a perfect place. Centerville, Tennessee was a perfect place to do all that. And then the other thing was this logistically was really resource heavy. And we knew going into it that we were going to need multiple pumpers. We were going to need multiple tankers. We were going to need a lot of hands to actually make it look like a working rural fire scene. So, we needed departments that were willing to be a part of it. And we got really fortunate. I've had students from the 3 departments that were represented, and they jumped at the opportunity to help us out, and it was fantastic. So we had members from the Centerville Fire Department in Tennessee, Rutherford County Fire Rescue. They brought a tanker every day, and East Hickman Volunteer Fire Department brought a pumper every day. So members from all over, and then just some other people that were in Tennessee that wanted to help and from beyond came and helped out. It was an awesome experience.
Henry, how about you when you got into it?
Yeah, I think the planning stages earlier on, as Andy alluded to a little bit, as a firefighter, I wasn't a person that was writing scripts or developing A roll, B roll, some of this production technology or terminology that we weren't familiar with. And it became clear early on that there was a lot of behind the scenes work that would need to take place, from the dialogue that Andy and I were going to speak about, but then to what camera angle, how could we capture to keep it realistic as it was, but to be able to capture the shot that would tie the dialogue to the shot to help tell that story. And from the equipment standpoint, logistically, again, we were in a pretty remote area. The folks that came from the fire departments were pretty well stacked. Between myself and Andy, with some of the equipment that we had, we brought along. We didn't really have any hiccups, but we were hoping you kind of planned for everything, what we might need, what we didn't need, but we had extra stuff. And then probably towards the end of the week, weather became a component. We had a time window that we wanted to operate where all these resources were available to us. And we had a couple monsoon type storms. The guys and gals worked through it, so it became pretty successful. Temperature was an issue. We ended up filming some stuff in a fire station because of weather, but I think the logistical ahead of time really was more intensive than just shooting it, because the shooting part with the partners that we had down there was a lot of fun. We were fire guys, and we clowned around, had a good time, but the foundation was built before we got on. So a lot of fun.
And what about TFT's involvement? What was it like for TFT? What were the resources that you brought to the table?
Sure. So, I mean, we have 2 experts that we send down to be with this crew for the week. And I think ultimately we just went in with this lens of deliver something that's authentic, right? You guys are talking about world firefighting, and recognize that creek, and you've been to that creek 100 times in your own scenario. So the guys that we set down there definitely work through that lens of, this is not going to be a polished advertisement. This is going to be a down and dirty, authentic water flow training event. And that was absolutely what they delivered on the first 4 episodes.
Now, those departments that you mentioned, what made them decide that they wanted to participate? And the reason I ask about that is because a lot of times it's like, yeah, gung ho, and then you're like, you're going to be on camera, and then they go, whoa, not me,
right.
So was it just their involvement and how they knew you and the familiarity?
So, I mean, I can say personally, I have a lot of people that in the state of Tennessee that believe in the programs and believe in what we're teaching and are willing to help no matter what. And Centerville, East Hickman, and Rutherford County are 100% 3 of the top departments that would absolutely do that. And they were the first 3 that popped in my head when we were doing all this planning. But a lot of the guys from Centerville came up and said they recognized that after the fact. They're like, this is a really big deal for us. We're a little tiny town in Middle Tennessee where probably nobody's ever heard of us, and we're gonna be on the map after this, right? It was really big for the fire department. They were really excited about that, and all of them were a little nervous. They thought, oh man, we're gonna have to get on camera and say something. But we told them, no, we don't need that. We just need you to work.
Yeah, be yourself.
And as soon as we told them, hey, we just need you to hook hoses up or fill a tanker or pump a fire truck, they were like, oh, I can just be a fireman. All right, that's no problem. I can do that. That's no problem at all. And they were all about it.
Perfect. Henry, I'm going to move to you on this one, but I'm going to get all of your input on this one because you'll probably all come at it from different directions. But talk about some of the more memorable episodes. We've released the first 4. You're going to release 4 more. I don't know that we'll be able to get into it here, but I'd love to talk to you guys after about just how you picked what those 8 topics were. But talk about a few of the memorable episodes for you and why they were memorable. Was it just that was the day of the monsoon, so that made it absolutely nuts. But and along those lines though, but the most memorable, but which of them you think is most important to get out there for the fire service? Henry, I'll start with you on that one.
I think one of the ones that stood out was there's one called the Rural Hitch, which will be coming out in the second part of the series. And it was a pretty private country road. We didn't have a lot of interference from civilian traffic down there. The opportunity to get some footage of the fire apparatus responding, coming over the crest of a hill, lights and sirens blaring. It was just typical fireman stuff. And I think the folks, when they get to view this one, are going to be excited about it. The teams picked up the technique right away. We had the opportunity to fly a drone and capture a hose line being laid down a rural driveway. So that setting was it was kind of peaceful down there, and it was a lot of fun, and we captured a lot of good content. And the firefighters, even though they weren't part of writing the script, those folks jumped right in. And as Andy it was business as usual. Oh, you want me to just pump a fire truck? You want me to hook up a hard suction tube? And it worked out really. That's probably my favorite day down there, which did end with a thunderstorm and tornado-like winds. But the fun was really in putting that whole together. That was probably my favorite day working down there.
How about you, Andy?
So one of the favorite moments and throughout the entire series was one of the rigs we used from the East Hickman Volunteer Fire Department is an 80s model 4D1.
Oh, okay.
And it's a beautiful white truck and has that classic, Northeast look. It came from up in Massachusetts.
Okay.
So one of the things that I was most excited about during the shoot was, we had Centerville's beautiful pumper that we were using, but we also had the old girl out there doing work. And for a lot of people in the United States, that is a reality.
Yep.
And we wanted to showcase that, this stuff throughout the whole series, you can use it on modern fire apparatus. We need to be training on that. But a lot of us aren't fortunate enough to have modern apparatus, and we're using an 80s model rig. So one of the videos that we did is coming out in the second part is on intake drafting and how to maximize your volume. And this 80s model pumper was a 1250 pump, and with a 22 we were flowing 1,500 gallons a minute out of it, and it didn't skip a beat. It was just great to see it just getting there and doing work.
How about you, Ben?
Yeah, I think so one of the questions was, how do we decide what content to build for the first? It's obvious that there's more to come out of that, right? These guys have training businesses of their own. They've been experienced in the field for a long time. There was more resources yet to come out of these guys. That to pick 8 was kind of difficult, but once we picked our 8, there was enough content to fill those training videos. Most memorable for me anyway is honestly once they're launched and we get them out to the public, the response, right? Getting people to come back and ask us questions of, how do I do this? Or what happens if I take, A to B on a product? Those are the parts where you're actually making the connection with the fire service, right? It's the reason we went rural first, because that's the best representation of American fire service. You don't have hydrants everywhere you go. You don't have as many resources everywhere you go. Get it done with what you got. And these guys did a great job of accomplishing that. So that was the most memorable part.
Well, I think the $1 million question after all of this is, how can people see what it is we're talking about, those first 4 episodes? Where can they find them?
Yep. So TFT website, so tft.com. There is going to be a learning hub on there that we are putting all of this content on there. But we are, all over Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, reels and posts and things. So you can obviously catch it there. But if you want to see the direct episodes in their full value, tft.com, learning resources.
Perfect. Great. Well, Ben, Henry, Andy, I want to thank you for sitting down with me so we could inform people a little bit more about this resource. It's really a resource that's out there for those to learn more about rural water delivery. It's just, I've said this before to Andy, I'm not in an area where there is a lot of that being done, but I think many people think it's just, finding a source, send them a couple tanks and running with it. And there is so much more when you are moving water in the rural environment to it. So great job in putting that out there for us. So again, this has been Chris Mc Loone along with Ben Lehman, and Lovett, and Andrew Salcadato. Have a good one. Stay safe. This has been live at FDIC.